You're standing there, totally silent, while a war is raging inside your mind. You're rehearsing the perfect words you'll never actually say. The real conversation ended hours ago, but in your head, it's just getting started. You've drafted searing monologues, flawless comebacks, and mic drop moments that would leave the other person speechless. But in reality, you just nodded, maybe smiled politely, or mumbled, "It's fine." Welcome to the hidden world of the internal arguer. It's a place where every conflict gets tried in a silent courtroom in your mind, but the verdict is never read out loud. If this sounds painfully familiar, you are definitely not alone. This mental habit is way more than just overthinking. It's a deeply ingrained psychological pattern. It's like a haunting where you're forced to be both the ghost and the one being haunted. This phenomenon, this huge gap between your vivid internal chaos and your calm outward appearance, is known in psychology as rumination, or the internal rehearsal of conflict. It really feels like you're living a double life. In one life, you're agreeable, composed, and you avoid conflict like the plague. In the other, you are a master orator, a fierce debater, a warrior of words who never ever loses. And this isn't some rare condition, it's a widespread human experience. You see it a lot with introverts, who naturally process thoughts internally before they speak. It's found in people with high emotional intelligence who know that some words can cause irreparable damage and consciously avoid saying them. And it's a classic sign of those who grew up in homes where expressing disagreement was either unsafe or just completely ignored. The external silence becomes a learned survival skill, while the internal noise becomes the only place your truth feels heard. But this internal courtroom, where you're the prosecutor, defendant, judge, and the jury, comes at a massive psychological cost. So, why does our brain do this to us? Why does it trap us in these silent, completely exhausting loops? The reasons are rooted in our primitive biology and some of our earliest life experiences. First off, your brain is running a conflict simulator. At its core, this is a survival mechanism. Your brain's threat detection center, the amygdala, is constantly scanning for danger. The problem is, it doesn't know the difference between the threat of a tiger in the grass and the threat of social rejection or criticism in a conversation. When it picks up on a social threat, it floods your body with the exact same stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, as if you were in real physical danger. This kicks off the classic fight, flight, freeze response. But here's the twist for internal arguers. The fight response gets suppressed and turned inward. While your mind is fighting a ferocious battle, crafting sharp rebuttals and defensive strategies, your body defaults to freeze or fawn. Externally, you go silent, become motionless, or even get overly agreeable to try and de-escalate the perceived danger. Your nervous system isn't just reacting to a simple disagreement, it's reacting to a primal echo of terror, treating a tense chat like a life or death situation. The second driver here is the hunt for retroactive control. After a conflict where you can feel unheard, dismissed, or even powerless, your mind will replay the event over and over again. This isn't just to torture you, it's a desperate attempt to get back a sense of control over a situation where you had none. By mentally rewriting the script and delivering the killer lines you couldn't find in the moment, you create a fantasy where you win. The French have a perfect term for this, l'esprit de l'escalier, or staircase wit, thinking of the perfect comeback only after you've already left and are on your way down the stairs. This mental rehearsal provides a fleeting illusion of power, a way to retroactively fix a moment that left you feeling small. Beyond our immediate brain wiring, this pattern is often born from our deepest emotional histories. It's an unresolved emotional loop, and it can be tied directly to our earliest relationships and how we learn to deal with power. For example, this behavior often connects back to early attachment styles. If you have an anxious attachment style, which can stem from unpredictable caregiving, the idea of speaking up and causing conflict can feel terrifying. It might risk rejection or abandonment. So, the argument stays safely in your head, where you can control the outcome without losing the relationship. On the other hand, someone with an avoidant attachment style may have learned early on that total independence is survival. For them, external conflict threatens their self-reliance, so they internalize everything to maintain a fortress of composure. You might have been taught in childhood that your needs were a burden or that expressing anger was just not allowed, so you developed a stoic public self. while a far more volatile and articulate private self rages on the inside. This creates a pattern of self-silencing. When your honest feelings have been consistently dismissed, ignored, or even punished, your mind learns that suppression equals safety. But that suppressed energy doesn't just vanish, it turns inward, creating a hostile inner world. A nasty inner critic often takes the stand, enforcing passivity on the outside while simultaneously fueling the furious, unspoken arguments within. This constant disconnect between your inner truth and your outer behavior starts to erode your very sense of self. And this is where we get to the real damage, the devastating hidden cost of this internal courtroom. You are trapped in a silent loop of resentment and exhaustion, while the conflict is invisible to everyone else. Your body and mind are bearing the full psychological and emotional burden of a war that never ends. First, there's the cognitive and emotional exhaustion. Rumination hijacks your brain's executive functions, the very resources you need for focus, planning, and regulating your emotions. It's like leaving dozens of tabs open on your computer. Your mental processing speed just slows to a crawl. This chronic brooding warps your perception of reality, making molehills feel like mountains and feeding cycles of anxiety and depression. Second, there's this invisible physical damage. Your body doesn't know the argument is only in your head. Each time you replay that conflict, you trigger a fresh wave of stress hormones. This chronic activation leads to what scientists call a high allostatic load. Basically, the cumulative wear and tear on your body from being under constant stress. Over time, this can mess with your sleep, raise your blood pressure, weaken your immune system, and put you at a higher risk for chronic health issues. You are literally experiencing the physical fallout of a fight without ever throwing a punch. Finally, and maybe most tragically, this pattern destroys your self-trust and messes with your relationships. Every time you swallow your words and silence your truth, you send a powerful message to yourself that your feelings don't matter and that you can't handle real conflict. This breeds a simmering resentment, not just towards the other person, but toward yourself for your own passivity. In your relationships, this creates a weird, unspoken tension. Your partner, friends, or family can probably sense that something is off. They feel the unspoken discord but have no idea what it's about, which leaves them confused and helpless. You're living a double life, and the gap between those two lives is a space that true intimacy just can't cross. The habit of arguing in your head isn't a personal failing or a sign of weakness. It's a deeply human survival strategy, a protective shield that, for one reason or another, has started to cost you more than it serves. It's the voice of a part of you that desperately wants to be heard, but is terrified of what might happen if it speaks. By understanding the why behind this pattern, the brain's threat response, the need for control, and the echoes of our past, we can start to treat ourselves with a lot more compassion. We all have that one conversation our brain refuses to let go of. What's the one argument you find yourself replaying the most? Share your experience in the comments below. You'd be surprised how many of us are sitting in the exact same silent courtroom. And if this resonated with you, subscribe for more content that decodes the human mind and helps you understand yourself a little better.